We vibing with one taken. Real talk, real talk. All right. So this is going to be the macros and keybinds guide. And I'm going to really quickly go through my more common macros. Got a couple of more advanced things that I will put in the sub channel of my Discord. And you can copy all of these directly from there as well. So if you're subbed on my Twitch, you'll get access to everything basically, which is the TLDR. Okay, if not, they're all here for you now for free. Enjoy. So starting off with target player, target party 1. So I actually target people with macros instead of binding it in the key bindings, because if you bind it in key bindings and somebody has a pet out and you press the button twice because you're spamming or whatever, it will rotate between the target, the like player and and your shadow fiend, or your party 1 player and their pet if they've got a pet. It's a hunter or something. So that's why I do it with macros, so that it doesn't do that. And I also feel like I don't know if they've changed this, but for some reason this might be pseudo, but I feel like it feels crisper doing it like this as well. We've got an add-on called Arena Binds. Yeah. And you should download this to target Arena 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Instead of using a macro, you should use these Arena Binds. It helps a ton and it saves a load of space. So I recommend doing that. But there's a macro for it there. If you want to do it, obviously change the 1, 2, 3, whatever. Target pets. I just throw all of this in one macro. And that will, if you usually you'll play with, teammates that, only one of them will have a pet most of the time. So you can grab the pet that way. Otherwise, you need to put in specific names and whatnot. So you have to adjust it depending on who you're playing with. But this works most of the time for me. We've also got console, weather density 0. That, I forget the name of it, but the snow map has a massive blizzard in front of your face and you can't see anything. This removes that because it's annoying. So that's good. Party 1 and 2, Arena 1 to 3 macros. So similar to these ones up here, you can actually run stuff like this as well. So if you want to dispel directly party 1 without even targeting them, it will just do this. It will just smash the dispel on party 1. If you want to chastise 1 to 3 without targeting them, this is probably the quickest way of doing that. Now, there are slightly more advanced macros for that if you are not in, or rather out of your holy chakra form, right? Your serenity chakra. Because if you're in serenity chakra, you won't be able to do this. There's some that will drop the target, and this will cause a global without actually using anything. If you just put in, for example, cancel aura, and then put this, it will cause a global if you spam it. So there's some slightly more advanced macros that prevent that happening, but it's an issue regardless. So cursor macros. This is pretty mandatory, I would say, at least for feather. But if you want to, I'll start with the feather. But basically, we got 2 options here, right? It's a modifier macro, and this will, if I press shift, it will just place a feather on me, the player. And if I don't press shift, it will place it on my cursor without using the green ring. So I'll just be able to place the feather without having to click again, and that makes it quicker. Essentially, it's smart cast. Now, I have that same thing on MD, but I also have a modifier on the MD, right? So that I have it without the circle like this. But if I want to smart cast it, I'll just cast it because of the lag on NA. But I'll show you how it looks with the shift. And this is if I want to place it a little bit more accurately from max range behind a pillar, or like if you're on Dalaran or something like that, getting it right on the edge so that you can MD and dispel somebody down the bottom. So this is something that I don't use very often. But like, say you want to like MD just around the corner. This is as far as it goes, right? If you're just freestyling it, if you try and max range it, yeah, it won't actually go to where your cursor is. It will go as far as you can, so you can miss it. So that's why the smart cast is nice. Same thing for light well. Just smash out the light well quick. You don't really need to aim it as precisely. So we just got at cursor. We got a pet macro. So if you want to field your fiend, you can press this twice. What it will do is it will check. And if you haven't got a pet out, it will cast Shadow Fiend. If you have got a pet out, it will come down here and it will do this bit. And also put a marker on it if you're leader, if you press it again. Macro just isn't really for arena, but just makes it handy so that you don't, if you can only use a ground mount, it will use a ground mount. If you can use a flying mount, it will use a flying mount. Shackle Gargoyle without targeting it manually. This is pretty useful. To be honest, this one should be in the sub channel. I don't know why this one is here. You guys you lucked out a little bit here. This will just if there's an urban gargoyle out, it will target it, and if that target exists, it will shackle it, and then go to the last target. Chakra macros. So this is a little bit what I was talking about earlier, but I have a macro just to cancel all my chakras, just to drop out. And so right now I have my chastise on D, and I have this macro on Shift D. And that just drops any chakra that I have in case I need to quickly go for a chastise or something. But you can, there's more advanced macros that you can use for that. Divine Hymn. So you can actually one button this one because Divine Hymn doesn't change based on your chakra state. So both of these will go off when you press it once. And this is really nice. It makes your hymn a bit more beefy. Obviously, chakra is only a 5-second CD, so most of the time you'll be able to get this off. As soon as the hymn is done, you can kind of just swap back out to your Serenity or no chakra state, depending on what you want to do. Buff macro. So the buff range when you do it on yourself is kind of big. So there's never really a reason to actually buff it on someone else. Most of the time you can just press it, have it on yourself, and it will get the group. If you want to rebuff group and say they're out of line, this kind of circumvents that, right? And you can just not even think about it. In a fight, in a will, most of the time this is solid. Obviously, if you go beyond the reset timer, you can increase this if you want. But if you go beyond the reset timer, then you're in a fire and you want to go to inner will, then it will reuse in a fire. But it's a really rare scenario. Most of the time, it just saves your bind, and you can switch between the two, just repressing the same bind. So I have this on 6. Talent swap macros. This is super useful. Absolutely, you want to use this. This is gonna swap your MC Void Tendril Siphene bind automatically when you change talent. So most of the time it'll be Siphene to MC, right? But this will avoid you having to create a separate bind for them both and have to keep dragging them off and on. It's just really annoying, right? You can forget, and then you're like, oh, I can't MC, I forgot to change. It's just a pain in the ass. So this just completely automates all of that, and you just never have to think about it again. And same thing for Cascade Divine Star. Now we get into Help Palm macros, and this is what I use for my rotational stuff. So things like Shield, Renew, Palm, Flash Heal, you know, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, the heals you use all the time, regular stuff. And then same for damage, you know, so Smite, Pain, Holy Fire. So they all go on there. And what that does is, and there's like a little bit of a cost to pay off here. But basically what it does is if you're targeting an enemy, it will do the offensive spell. And if you're targeting a friend, it will do the friendly spell. And this means that your hand doesn't need to constantly be moving around all the time because you need some slightly worse binds or modifiers for, say, your damage stuff. And this just makes it way more relaxing to play. At least that's how I feel about it. The downside of it is that if you're targeting an enemy, you can't just press shield and it go on yourself, right? So you'll need a modifier. Like, say, if your shield is on 1, you would need a modifier macro as like shift 1 to shield yourself or something like that. Or you just swap target. So there's obviously pros and cons to it. But I feel like if you're playing for like 8 hours straight, reducing that hand movement constantly on all your rotational stuff just makes it so much more relaxing. I'm a big fan of that. It's not for everyone, but obviously bindings are a very personal thing. But I put them in here just because I think it's useful. It's good tech. And yeah, give it a try. You might like it. So yeah, we've got the field one. This is just I don't know what this one's here for. This isn't even help harm. This is just a modifier macro, but this is you can press field on someone else, or you can press shift and press the bind and field yourself. So if you're trying to field a fear, it's pretty quick. This one's help harm, prayer mending, holy fire. This is quite a simple example, but obviously you can change the spells in. One thing I would say is if you are working with an instant heal, make sure you put help in there, because if you just put harm, holy fire, then what can happen is if someone like feign death, so you drop a target, meld, whatever, and you're about to press a button, and now you drop target, you press the button, it turns into the non-targeted version of it, right? And because you haven't put help in there, it will just prayer of mending yourself, and you'll waste a global and mana. So just be aware of that. Again, help harm stuff here, purify. So this one's quite useful. So I think it's either in Mop or in Kata. I can't remember what it was, but they split the Dispel Magic. I don't know why they did this, by the way. Because for all intents and purposes, you can just revert it. It's weird. But basically, Purify, which is the defensive Dispel, and Dispel Magic is the offensive Dispel, right? They got split. You can put it back into one bind by using a Help Harm macro. And then I also have a Mod Shift Dispel Self macro in there. Stop casting. So this is, you can put, if you're in a druid, you can put cancel form in here as well. But yeah, you can put, I got stop casting, stop attack, cancel or disperse, cancel or levitate, slow fall, pet follow, all of this good stuff in my stop casting macro. So I can just press that for different scenarios, and it's useful stuff. Okay, so the key binding. So that's it for the macros. There's not a lot that's actually that insane in there. There's a couple of spicy ones in the sub channel, but I gotta leave some perks for the people contributing. You know what I'm saying? So if you would like to get access to those, or just copy past everything, it's all in there. So for key bindings, this is more just like a sort of a thought process, or a sort of a mindset, right? So if you're like trying to key bind on a new character, I'm just kind of making a tier list almost of the binds, right? So you've got your movement binds. I move with QWE. A and D might be your movement binds, in which case it will be reversed, right? Q will be green and E will be okay. So obviously there's a small distinction there, but I would say that these green binds are probably your best binds for your fast or important CDs that you need to reactively use or use often. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I consider these like rotational. I put target self on this bind, so I've got it on there. You don't have to do that, obviously. You can put it on whatever you want. In which case, I would say that is probably either, depending on your keyboard and how you feel about it, I would say it's either green or orange, mid tier. For example, I have death on R. You want to be fast with it. You want to be reactive on it. I have dispel on F. Again, you want to be fast with it. That kind of thing. And then D is like my chastise / serenity. So it's just things that you know, as I said, binding is a very personal thing, but it really does come down to like how you want to assign things, and you know, make a notepad on it or something like that, you know, of everything that you want to bind, and then try and link it up to the different key bindings in terms of the different groups and tiers and whatever. Just write it down and make groups, because that will allow you to say, okay, these are the ones that I want to be on important things. How many have I got? Have I got 5 fast CD binds? What am I going to do with the 6th? You know, what is the most comfortable thing for me? And like for me personally, this finger is like I feel like it's like stronger or like more controlled or something, like a spamming stuff or doing stuff fast compared to the other 3. So then if there's anything that I really want to use quickly or spammy, I'll have it on a bind that I can press with that. So like try and figure that out for yourself as well. If your other fingers are also strong and you can feel like you can spam well with them, then your tier list will look a little bit different potentially. Obviously, you're going to have potential to have bindings on the mouse as well. And personally, I put off global stuff on the mouse. I have forward, backward on mouse, and I have scroll up, scroll down on target party 1 and 2. And I think that's a healer thing specifically, right? You're not going to have that if you're a DPS. You'll have scroll up, scroll down on something completely different. You'll have potentially a little bit more mouse binds. Or you might be using like a Razer Naga or something. I personally don't like them, and I'm more of a keyboard-centered gamer, but there's definitely people that make them work. If that works for you, then your bindings will look slightly different as well. But yeah, I'm not going to go into huge detail and tell you everything to bind to every little thing. You can see what the bindings are on my screen. It's nothing too crazy, but it's more just about like the thought process behind when I like assign things, different binds to different things. This is sort of the tier list method, I guess, that I am approaching that with. Then if I'm going to go and play an ult, which doesn't happen very often, but if I do play an ult, I try to group similar spells together on that same bind, so that then intuitively it makes sense. Like, oh, hey, I want to come and dispel as a palette, same bind, you know, flash of light, same bind, you know, movement ability or like personal cooldown, same bind. So like desperate prayer or the palette will both on shift 4, things like that. So it makes everything a lot simpler and a lot more intuitive in my brain in that way. And you can actually go and make an Excel sheet, right? I have an Excel sheet somewhere where I literally just have the different characters or rather different classes or whatever, and then what each thing is bound to, and then try to translate that across each different class. So usually for me, that means classic, holy disc versus retail. And I try and keep everything sort of somewhat in line to be on similar binds or the same binds where it's appropriate. So I don't have all these crazy binds. I don't have to worry about it, and it's just intuitive. But yeah, I've rambled on. It's as I said, it's a very personal thing, but this is just some tips in case you are struggling with binding.